Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your daily update for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. For Bitcoin, it is moving lower, that's what I've expected, but I don't expect this is it. I expect it's going to keep going lower. Next support 24,800, support below that 21,500, and I think it might stop at 19,500, but it has to break through these support areas before it can get down there. There's very strong support at 19,500. That's the 2017 high, a very major high, and I expect that's going to provide really strong support for this continuing downward trend. It remains in a downward trend. There's still a series of lower highs and lower lows, so in order for that view to be changed, we need to see that series broken by a higher high above 3206.08. Yesterday's downward session was quite strong. It showed an increase in range and an increase in volume beyond the previous day, although overall volume is declining. So I do expect with this short-term increase in volume that we're probably going to see more downward movement from Bitcoin for the short term. There's a new very, very weak range for on-balance volume for Bitcoin, and the lower line has quite a strong slope and only two tests, so there's no signal. The last signal here was bearish, and that was followed by strong downward movement, so this is a good example of how on-balance volume can work. This signal happened on the 16th of August, and this downward movement was the following day, the 17th of August. This is why on-balance volume is such a powerful indicator. Sometimes it will form a range. You can draw resistance and support, and then you wait for a breakout. And when you get a breakout, sometimes that breakout precedes the direction in price. Now we see a signal for XRP using this technique today. We'll get to that shortly. Still no clear trend from ADX. RSI reached fairly deeply oversold and exhibited single bullish divergence. There's a little technical evidence to say the last low for Bitcoin could remain intact. Money flow reached oversold. It's back into neutral territory. So the big change from yesterday is yesterday closed with a strong range and an increase in volume. So for the short term, that is bearish. That supports the view that Bitcoin's probably going to make lower lows. I just want to take a moment to remind you that at pureelliottwave.com we are analysing gold. We're also analysing euro-dollar 5 days a week. And here's some of our recent excellent calls from gold. Back on the 20th of July, when price was just below 1970 for gold, we were expecting quite a strong downward movement. By the 22nd of August, that's exactly what had happened, and now we're expecting a bounce to continue. And then by the 24th of August, a few days ago, we were expecting that bounce was going to be actually quite deep. And today it's really close to our target, so let's see what happens next. But how much could you have made out of gold if you had this chart available on the 20th of July? Were you expecting gold was going to keep on going up? Were you trading it to the long side? Did you miss out on this big downward movement? Because this is what our members got, a lot of downward movement. That's exactly what we had expected, and now we're predicting this bounce. So if you want quality Elliott Wave analysis backed by my 10 years as a CMT with 15 years experience, this is the kind of accuracy I'm able to provide our membership at Pure Elliott Wave. Click on the link below in the description box, go over and check out our gold analysis. For Ethereum, I still have the same two Elliott Wave counts. I'm looking at a zigzag completing lower to find support at the lower edge of this channel. This first wave count sees wave C of the zigzag incomplete with wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to continue lower, 5 to be very likely to make at least a slight new low beyond the end of 3 at 1539.71 to avoid a truncation. Truncations for these markets are very rare. Well, for all markets are very rare. And look out for support at this trend line. The alternate wave count for Ethereum considers what if the low is intact. We could see wave C 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could be complete. If that's the case, I've changed my labeling here slightly. We could have a first wave up here and a second wave correction to complete as an expanded flat with a 3 for A, a 3 for B and a 5 for C to move below the end of A at 1581.95 to avoid a truncation, but wave 2 may not move beyond the start of 1 below 1539.71. So this wave count is very specific. It needs more downward movement to end at or below this point to avoid a truncation, but may not move below this point. And one of the nice things about Elliott Wave rules is all of them bar 1 are black and white. They are absolute. If 2 moves even a fraction of a cent beyond the start of 1, on any time scale, a fraction of a cent on a tick chart is enough to invalidate the Elliott Wave, breach the rule and invalidate the Elliott Wave count. On the technical chart, we see also for Ethereum a wide range day with some increase in volume. So again, it looks like we may be going to see more downward movement for Ethereum. We do still have that series of lower highs and lower lows intact. And here's the last swing high, 1875.24. But for Ethereum, I wouldn't necessarily wait for a new high above 1875.24. 1800.89 would be enough, because using this Elliott wave count, wave 4 may not move into wave 1 price territory. So a new high above that point by any amount at any time frame invalidates this bearish Elliott wave count and adds confidence to the bullish Elliott wave count. So that's enough for me, for Ethereum, to have confidence that a low is in place. So it's nice when we can use Elliott wave rules to reduce our risk in that manner. And Elliott wave rules and alternate wave counts, a little bit complicated, but that's how I'm doing it. If we do see more downward movement, let's assume the trend remains the same until proven otherwise. Let's look for support for Ethereum at 1360. So yesterday finished with an increase in volume and a wide-ranging day. This is bearish for the short term and supports the view that the downward trend most likely remains intact. Ethereum has a new range for on-balance volume, but because the slope of these lines is quite strong and it's in the same direction as the previous direction for on-balance volume, it's not opposite like this one was, this reduces the technical significance. This has good technical significance. On balance volume enters the range in a downward direction. The range has a slight upward slope, and then it exits. It gives a bearish signal here. And now there's a new range, but it's sloping in the same direction as on balance volume, so that reduces the technical significance substantially. But we'll look for a breakout for a very weak signal. ADX is declining after reaching very extreme. There's no longer a downward trend indicated. RSI reached deeply oversold and exhibited single bullish divergence, so there is some technical evidence a low could be in place, but with yesterday's volume, it looks most likely it's going to continue lower. For XRP, I have the same two wave counts. I've checked the subdivisions now on the hourly chart. Now that it looks like this might be complete, and I can see a double combination here, zigzag for W, triangle for X, and in Y here on the hourly chart I can see a regular flat correction. So B may be over, and it could be a double combination, zigzag, X, flat. This wave count expects one final low for XRP to reach down to a more normal depth for minor 2 in relation to 1 of 80 to 90%. So I think 40 cents is most likely for XRP because it's within that normal depth and there's really strong support there. For this wave count, wave B may not move beyond the start of A, so a new high above 0.6650 would invalidate this main wave count and add confidence that a low is in place, and that also happens to be the last swing high within the downward trend. Alternatively, it's possible minor 2 could be over, but we need to see this high taken out, 0.6650, before we can have confidence in this view, and this wave count is a little bit more forced than the main wave count. This third wave here just doesn't have a very good look. You want to see it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but that's invalid because the third wave would be shortest. So this is how I've seen minuet wave 3, and this wave count's forced, and so I would judge it to have a lower probability anyway. Technicals for XRP, not so bearish as the other two, but we do have an increase in range for yesterday's downward session, and it did show a small increase day on day in volume, so that is bearish, but what we do have from XRP is a bearish signal from on-balance volume. This support line that's breached is practically horizontal. It only has 3 tests. It's not too long held. So it's a reasonable bearish signal, not a very strong one, but it is bearish. Now this supports the view that XRP is going to follow through with some strong downward movement. The last time we had a signal like that from XRP was back here on the 30th of July. On this session, we got the last bearish signal from XRP, and look what happened. Now, you don't necessarily see the follow-through from these signals from on-balance volume in the very next day or so. It took another 2 days of slight downward movement before we started to see some strength in downward movement with increasing range and some push from volume. So today, I am going to give quite a lot of weight to this bearish signal from XRP. This definitely supports the view that the bear market or the bearish pullback for XRP is going to continue. It remains intact. We haven't found a low yet. ADX is declining, so it's not indicating a trend. Wouldn't take much for it to turn up though and again indicate a downward trend, and if it does, it's a long way from extreme. RSI reached oversold, but it's back in neutral territory. There was no divergence, so it certainly could reach further into oversold. We could start to see some divergence develop as a low forms. Like money flow, did reach oversold, not as deeply, but it does exhibit single bullish divergence. It could exhibit double before the low is formed.